All right. Hey, Warren, thank you so much for joining me here.
Always a pleasure.
So, Warren Kahn is a life coach. He's someone that I call the master navigator of love and life because he has shown me in so many different contexts that he has a true mastery. And mastery is a complicated word, but it's something that I hope you as an audience will experience in this dialogue. So, Warren, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be here today?
From a very young age, I've always been a seeker. And um, the mystery of this whole life and our birth and death and nature and photosynthesis and, the wonder of it all. And um, my background is in music. I'm a musician and a record producer I have had a recording studio and an advertising agency, lots of different business enterprises, as well as very close to becoming a major label artist at one point in my career that I took a different turn. And, when you, in part of that seeking, all of us as human beings have had difficult circumstances, whether it's loss or mourning or rejection or striving or disappointment or illness, or there's just a long list in this playing field of life where we run into something that looks hard or painful or scary. And we also have an ego that's constantly trying to prove itself and make itself look good and achieve and be respected and loved and included. And those that striving, that constant striving, it doesn't deliver the cheese at the end of the tunnel, and it doesn't deliver because even if you achieve, it's never enough. It's like a bucket with holes in the bottom, and you keep trying to fill it. And no matter how long you fill it, how hard you fill it, how many gallons go in, it still doesn't fill. And and so I spent a lot of my life in that chase. In the sense, I drank the Kool-Aid or bought what the culture was saying, about what it means to become, to be successful, to be, to have a productive life, to have meaning. And in 1982, I took a training called the Life Training. That program is now called More to Life, and I'm one of the senior trainers for More to Life, one of about 10 of us in the world right now that are at that level of the program. And it completely transformed how I look at life, how I respond to what life has given me. You mentioned the word mastery or master of, and I think since that word can have a lot of meanings to people. I know a meaning that I had on it a long time ago was when you're a master, you're able to control things. You're able to master over something, make it go the way you want it to go. And so in a sense, my definition is counterculture, in that it's not mastery over anything or controlling anything. It's finding the alignment with what is given in life. It's in a sense surrendering the resistance, surrendering the need to control, the need to judge it or make it stop or anything like that. And I mean, there are times in life where you need to stand up and say, that's not okay with me. And you take a courageous stand for something. But most of it is draped in against this. It's a force, it's an us and a them and a separation and that just creates more conflict and more separation, more pain, more angst, more stress, more disease, more resentment, more false self-esteem about we're the right ones or the good ones or God is on our side or all of those things that we've heard many times. And so, as well as becoming a master or mastery in life, if it's not accompanied with a good, strong dose of humility, it's just BS. It's just ego seeking somehow enoughness. And the essence of human uh, evolution is to get the enoughness. It's like it already exists in us. It was there from the moment we were born, but somehow we don't get it. We need assurance or reassurance or accolades or medals or money or a Tesla or whatever it is that we represent as having made it. And so the mastery that I am continually refining, excuse me, is more about the trusting and faith that what is being given is the way. It is the map. It is the next step. And how I align, you know, quickly to it eliminates the amount of suffering that I've added on into my life. It doesn't mean that what is being given isn't painful. It could be very painful. A diagnosis of an illness or the death of a loved one or the loss of a friendship or whatever it would be. But then we add on a lot of more pain and suffering because we resist it, try to make it stop. And, I call it the isness of a life, as another way of saying reality. It is happening. This is happening. Now what? How will I be with what is happening rather than trying to change it, control it, make it go away, make it stop? So, in this course that I took in 1982, where I met my teacher, Dr. Bradford Brown, and that was the beginning of, decades of journeying toward becoming who I really am. And I'm still on that journey, the true essence of who I am, not the drama, not the wrappings or trimmings or awards or titles or all of that, but just to be at home in the skin of me, this body, this temple, this amazing machine I've been gifted with at my birth, you know, where I can see and hear and explore and wonder and train my intellectual part, my mind, to be in service of bringing my best to life. That's my purpose, you know, and in that is to like grow my capacity to love, to forgive, not only others, but myself as I miss the mark, as I'm imperfect, as I'm human. Not to give myself a free ticket to just behave however I want, but to actually seek what that mastery in being the essence of my best, most connected, most generous, most loving, most kind, most forgiving, most wise, most courageous, most bold, most true, most in integrity, most, and the list goes on of the values that which I define my best self. Authenticity, just being real. I'm in pain or I'm afraid or I'm scared or I'm hurting or, whatever it is, to own it and allow this mechanism that I've been gifted with, this physical body that has a whole myriad range of emotions and physical sensations, to allow it to express itself. That rather than being just angry at somebody else, to say, okay, I am going to have my anger now because I am angry, so that I get that energy out of me, so that then I can now start to see the clarity of the road ahead. And that's just, there's a whole series of techniques and understandings and practices that I use that have become part of the way I receive what reality brings me. And in the moment, I can make those navigations, those adjustments, those turns away from, oh, I'm falling into that old pattern. I'm falling into that old fear. I'm falling into that old reality. I'm falling into that proving, because those are well-worn grooves. We've been doing it for a long time. And the unlearning of that there's another way that we can inhabit, be, embrace, engage with, master, and live that full life fully lived in alignment with the reality that we're given in this life. So that was long
Yeah.
piece, but I think it touched on a number of things. And how did it come across to you?
Yeah. Well, it was really foundational, and it brings forward a sense of the concept of mastery as you related it to alignment. It's not control, but it is the ability to work with your body and your mind and your spirit and your emotions so that they relate effectively to what's happening outside. So there is an element of control and an element of mastery, but it's not over what's out there. It's over what is coming up and the choices you make in terms of how you're going to respond, what what's behind some of these feelings, what's behind some of the thoughts. And so it's really creating that relationship. Um,
Yeah, I can put a few more words
yeah,
to what you're
yeah,
saying. As opposed to control, it's like self-discipline.
discipline. That's the great word.
The
Yes,
self-discipline, because I'm not going to indulge that fear. I'm not going to indulge my reactivity. I'm not going to indulge making somebody wrong, or any of that. It's like I am master over this one.
right.
You know, I can't control you. I can't control our society. But as I master this one, and I model something, and I invite others to learn about how they can do the same, culture changes. The tipping
Exactly.
point arises and humanity evolves. And, I also thought about, one of the ways to define mastery, when we think of masters in the arts or in sports, we think of a Michael Jordan, or we think of a Yo-Yo Ma. I mean, and we awe at their capabilities, and we go, how did they do that? Michael Jordan's eyes go back into his head and his tongue comes out, and there's 18, 12-foot guys in front of him in the basket. He just says, I'm going there now. And it's not like I'm going to knock all of you over. He actually finds the air, the space in between the players. That's my pussycat out there. She wants to come in the door, and sit on the chair. And I'm going to just let her do that, because
Okay. Okay.
responding to the reality that's being given in a loving way. Come on, little girl. Come on. Come on. You can come in. Come on. There you go. You want to say hello to everybody? Come say hello. This is my little
Oh,
girl. My little
who's that?
sweeter.
Oh,
Petite.
hi, Sweeta. You are
Okay.
sweet.
Here. Go ahead and do the chair. So, just in a moment like that, where life is coming with a meow at the door, she wants to be included. She wants to be loved. She wants to sit in her chair. And I can look at it as an interruption. Oh, that's ruining the video right now. Or I can say, look, that's an opportunity to be loving and willing and take a moment. What else have we got to do? Why wouldn't I open the door and let her in and have her in the chair? And there she is in her chair. She's happy now. She's cleaning herself, and that's love. So, but as I was saying about Michael Jordan, finding the air He doesn't have to knock people over. He actually finds that there's lots of space as he sends that ball and himself to the basket. And you go, oh, that's amazing. Or Yo-Yo Ma, when he's playing these incredible licks on the cello, and there's just one high note that's coming up that's really high up on the fretboard, or whatever they call it on a cello, and he doesn't go, uh-oh, here it comes, I better do it right. Oh, I wonder if I'm going to hit it, maybe it'll be flat, maybe, if you do that, you lost it. You're not going to hit it. You're already, worried about failure. But he goes for it, and he hits it, and the sound sings, and everybody goes, ah. What is that? That's the faith and the trust and the courage all embodied in that move of that going to that note. And the note sings. It's not apologetic. It's not hesitated. It's, I'm going to take that last shot with 4 seconds left on the clock. Michael Jordan, give me the ball. I'm going to take the shot. And so life is risky. But a lot of what we perceive as the downside of risk is really the prison of our own minds.
So, Warren, there's something I really want to explore in there,
Mm-hmm.
because what I'm hearing you talking about is flow, is these examples of mastery where you have a skill, a discipline that took years and years and years. So you have the precision on one side, but then you have the openness, the faith, the trust, the fearlessness on the other side. And that these two aspects are in balance. In terms of what you do, what you train in, you described, I mean, you started in the early 80s, training in something. What, how would you describe that skill, that discipline that you have evolved that now you can bring to other people?
Great. I think that's just a fantastic question. From the moment we were born, our mind has been a learning machine. Now, there may be learnings that it came in with, whether you believe in previous lives or all of that we come in with some preset dispositions or personalities, or how much is hereditary and how much is environmental. Those discussions, I don't need to know whether those, because just the isness is all I'm concerned about. And as we've learned things, we've had things happen to us. We had a bully at school punch us, or we had a teacher give us a failing grade, or we had, you know, uh, making the cheerleading squad and everybody's cheering for you, or being the football captain, or, whatever it would be. And those series of all those learnings have made an imprint on our mind. And those have formed networks of connections where when something happens that's similar to that thing that happened whenever it happened, when we were in that learning mode, it triggers an automatic response, which really isn't responding, it's really reacting. And it's so quick. Somebody gives you a look and they're not even looking at you, but you think they're looking at you, and you're already kind of ready to fight, or you're ready to argue, or you're ready to run, or you're ready to something. And it's the reality that's being given is not really the thing that happened. But even if it is, you're already programmed from your learning to react in a certain way. And so no growth is possible. You're literally like that specimen in the resin, the prehistoric resin in Jurassic Park. You're stuck in a moment in time. That moment has imprinted on you, and you are back there in a moment. And so there is no growth. There's no awareness. There's no consciousness. There's no evolution. There's nothing moving, evolving. So the first thing is, when something happens like that, we have this incredible machine, this body, and the heart beats faster, we start sweating, we get a knot in our stomach, our shoulders get tight, we get a headache, we feel sick to our stomach. And those are all, warning signs. They're like the submarine going, "Wee, wee, wee, dive, dive." Something has hit you. It's hit you that basically has triggered all that cellular memory to something that happened whenever it happened and you learned. Mostly, sometimes very traumatic things that happened. And so, first thing is you need to tune into this body. You need to get that it's saying, take a look, something's happening right now. Okay, as soon as I do that, and I check into my feelings and I check into my emotions, now I let it take me on a ride. I say, go ahead, feel that fear, feel that anxiety, feel that self doubt or whatever it is. Now, what's happening inside your head? What are you telling yourself about that experience that's now happening in real time? And it delivers just like an iceberg, where you see only the ice on top of the water. That's what we normally see. And often we say, well, the person that gave me that look or that statement, it's their problem. It's their fault that I'm feeling this way. We take full responsibility. This is my feeling. This is my reaction. This is my mindset. And we go digging, we go exploring, we put on the miner's lantern and we go look at all of that material that's under there. They don't like me. This is dangerous. I'm going to be alone. There's a whole root structure of mind talk down there that we've learned. That's all trying to protect us from some dire consequence or some fatality or some great pain. So once I hear that, now the iceberg is being revealed. Okay. And over years and years of this practice, you are rewiring that automatic behavior. you know so when I look at all that mindset, mind talk, you know statements of belief, expectation, demands, all of that, and I bring it into the light and I say, well, really, is that something I really know or don't know? Is it really true? And is it really true, even if it was so, that that'll have that consequence? And then literally the bondage, the chains, the shackles of my presets start to dissipate and lighten up, and the fear leaves my body, and strength appears, and truth resides. And all of a sudden, I am free. I am not a bond in that resin anymore. I'm not stuck in the past. I'm present to what's being given now. And in that freedom, and you practice that over and over and over again, every time, you get a million things inputting to you all day, every day of your life. You free yourself again, free yourself again. Okay, I fell in that hole of my old thinking. Okay, now I can come back out into the light. And literally, you start to fly, because now you're in reality, you're in your presence, you're in consciousness, you're in awareness, you own what's yours to own. And then you realize there's a lot in life we can't control. Go ahead and tell the tsunami, no, thank you today. Please just go on back to the ocean. It doesn't ask your permission, it just comes. And so what will you do now? Okay, well, maybe I should climb a tree. Maybe I should run. Maybe I should swim. Maybe I should say, I love you to my loved ones as we die, as we drown. You know, in that moment, you will inhabit your truth, faith, authenticity, humanity, reality, or you'll continue to fall into some illusion that you can somehow stop it or change it, and so those practices, and there's many more, but that's kind of the main one, is here's what's happening, and I'm awakened by my body sensations. Here's what I'm thinking that's creating my fear, anxiety, stomach pain, neck ache, tenseness, heart rate. Okay, what's true about all of that? And now how will I be? What will I do? Given that I've seen my presets, what's true now for me, and how do I want to be in this life with what's being given? And that in and of itself is the ticket to freedom and lightness and being and flow, because now I'm aligning to reality and truth, as opposed to something happened when I was in fifth grade, and you know somebody said something and now I'm stuck back in there. So anyway, that's one kind of
Yeah.
tool. And it isn't a tool that you can just say, okay, oh, I got it and now I can do it, because 40, 30, 20, 30, 40 years of imprint doesn't evaporate in a moment. You may have an epiphany, but that groove is well worn, and it needs daily refinement, polishing, and also helpful to have an outside eye, to have somebody skilled who can hear and see and has traveled that road and masters those techniques, to help you see, oh, what were those words that just came out of my mouth, and what is that about, and what does that mean to you? And because it all sounds normal in here, and so when I have somebody that says, hang on, what was that, what was that, until I get my legs under me. When you're teaching your child how to ride a two-wheeler, you take the training wheels off eventually, you run behind them at first, you hold the bike seat, and you run alongside, and then at some point you let them go. This isn't about a codependency where you need a coach forever, unless it's helpful, but it's not a codependent relationship. It's here's a light into where your next step is. Here's a light about maybe what you can let go of. Here's a light of what you can take on, and helping you strengthen that until that practice becomes your practice.
Yeah.
And you can get a tune-up every once in a while. I mean, you take your car in for a tune-up once a year or something. You could come and have a coach take a look at how it's going. But I value having coaches in my life. I have a coach. I have coaches, many. And I am not just a coach, I'm also a student. And so we're never done. We're all works in progress. And so, but I invite people that are listening into this conversation to say, boy, that might be helpful in my life for me to hone my mastery and um, refine my ability to align, and in that be more successful than you ever could have imagined, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
The miracles start coming your way in a different way than, oh, what's life going to throw at me today? That's
Mhm.
the whole mindset with which you greet your day. Which one will it be? The wonder of a child, or the burden of a life that's so hard? Reality is the same. That's a perspective, a lens through which you engage with what's given.
Beautiful. Moving this to the shared experience. So, what I hear you saying is that our nervous system is set up for automatic reactions. Something comes in, the natural reaction is to react. It's very
Built,
automatic.
it was built that
It's a,
way. When the
right,
caveman, saw a saber-toothed tiger coming at him,
Right, right.
You didn't have time to like
React first, ask questions
run,
later. Right,
run, you know,
right,
stay alive.
right.
So protect yourself.
Run, attack, whatever the,
Big
whatever the thing to do is, do something, right? Um, it sounds like then what you do is create enough space for reflection to open up possibilities. So choices can be made that are conscious choices and not based on old experience, old experience, old experience, because very possibly that's been a compulsive repetition because of what you experienced when you were very young. So that you actually need to do real work, open it up, and you've described this process system for creating and opening up that space for reflection. What one thing I'm really interested in, I understand that Brad Brown's whole theory was around experiential learning. And he said, understanding is the booby prize. Now, with the training room and you as a trainer, describe how you use these shared experiences or multiple people so that you can support people in becoming conscious of their automatic reactions and becoming conscious of their pre-programmed behaviors, their automaticity. How do you help them, and how does that shared experience, that training room, play into that?
Mhm. Well, this is not to say that book learning isn't valuable. It is valuable. But you can read a book about how to ride a bicycle, how to surf a wave, and you'll never have the experience. You know, you can say, okay, well, I need to hold this way, and I need to get on this way, and I need to sit this way, and all of that. But until you get on the bike, feel the wobbliness of the balance, or feel the wind in your face, or coming down that hill snow skiing, or in the middle of that wave when you're riding it, that experience, the exhilaration of the reality of being in the encounter itself, there's no replacement for that. You fair enough, do the book learning, read, explore, learn in that way. But until you ride that bike, drive that car, you're in the middle of a political protest and people are screaming at you. How will you be in the moment of that? That's the real experience. Now, when we have a hothouse environment, like a greenhouse environment, which is a training, or an online, it can be an online program as well. And you have um, a group of participants that at their core, they're all human beings. They all want to belong, be loved, be safe. Basically, that's all we're doing, down to those three things. But they've all had different encounters with life. Somebody grew up in Syria and lost all their family in bombings, and their house came down on them and didn't have enough food to eat, or starvation in Africa, or apartheid, or civil rights, or Asian, the thing that's happening now with Asian violence and all of that. I mean, each one of us has a different reality. For me, growing up as a Jewish kid, and getting beat up because I was Jewish. I mean, I didn't have any understanding of what is that about, that because I was born into some ethnicity or religious tradition or something. But we all have these myriads of different experiences. So we come in with all of that, both knowledge and baggage. but they kind of gotten junked together. Stuff that's helpful to have me navigate my life, and stuff that is like not helpful, keeps me alone, separated, fearful, on guard. I want intimacy, but I'm on guard. Well, go ahead. How do you do that? How do you have intimacy and be on guard? You can't. You can't be half pregnant. You can't. You're either going to be intimate or you're going to be protective and held back. And so you put that hothouse group together, all these different experiences, and a couple of things, magical things happen. First of all, since we think that what we're saying, believing, feeling, experience is normal, or we accuse ourselves of being the only ones who feel some kind of hurt or rejection or something. And somebody else stands up or somebody else takes the microphone and they share a story about their life. And you go, that's me. Or that sounds so similar to what I have experienced. And all of a sudden now, the humanity in the room starts to bond, not as blacks, whites, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, rich, poor, white, this, that. All of a sudden, those trappings of separation start to disintegrate, where we start to see the heart of the matter. We start to see the shared experience of humanity, the best of us and the worst of us. And it all comes rolling out. And as each person has their realization, their breakthrough, their claiming of new territory, their release of old material that's baggage. Like in the mission when that guy climbed that mountain and he finally, that other Indian cut that armor that he was carrying around to punish himself. You'll have to go watch the mission and you'll get what I'm talking about. But we literally cut those things away. We cut that a cord that connects us to our own suffering. And as that evolves, as the shared experience happens, as people wake up by actually witnessing growth through somebody else, I may have my moment at the microphone, but I'm learning from every single person in the room something about myself. Or if the experience is not something I shared, I grow my empathy. I grow my compassion. I grow my understanding of what it's like to have had that experience in life instead of the experience I had. And out of it grows that shared humanity, real truth, evolution and breakthroughs, and it delivers us to a state of thankfulness, of gratitude, of saying, boy, thank you for my life. Thank you for a fork. Thank you for, a crayon. Thank you for the computer that I can talk with people all over the world. I mean, you just start sitting in this state of gratitude for every single thing. The farmer that brought you that groceries in the market, you start to see, you know, the the our feces becomes the fertilizer of our food. Isn't that something? How does life work like that? I need oxygen and the trees need carbon dioxide. I mean, what's going on here? This design is absolutely amazing. And so you start to live in wonder, the wonder of a child. And when you have that in a shared experience, it's even more powerful because it has a growth, a momentum, an exponential resonance. And you're not alone. That we're on this path together as spiritual warriors and and human beings, and your hope for the world, for civilization, for how we might join and work together to solve the problems and challenges that we have. You get that inspired state. Now, individual work is also very helpful because sometimes you need full attention and concentration on something. But if you combine those two things, your individual experience and the shared experience of what a group and the power of being in a group reveals and illustrates, now you've got double power, and growth, exponentially expands, and life is transformed.
I can really see, having experienced one of your trainings, one of the concepts in More to Life is being on team. And it was very interesting. So the people who were supporting you as a trainer and supporting all of the participants, my job was actually coordinating uh, the other team members and who had what task at what time. It was very interesting that the more experienced team members wanted to be microphone runners at particular times over the course of the 3 days because they knew that people would be having real shifts, real breakthroughs at that time, and they wanted to be right there with front row seats. So I'm really interested in the interplay between what's planned. You have a manual, these things unfold in particular ways, versus what's spontaneous, and how you, as a trainer, understand in the moment where the person, where the group is going, and when it's time to follow the manual, when it's time to go
Hmm.
where you see things going.
Boy, what a fabulous question. I want to build on what I said before. When I gave basically the most basic tool, which is you get an event from life and you have a reaction in your body and you unplug what the mindset is and you tell the truth and you are free to now behave and do differently. That's one step. That's one part of your masterful evolution. That's cutting the bondage of the past. But there's a whole other level that I call inner knowing. Now, inner knowing is beyond the intellect, yet it incorporates your intellect, it incorporates your instinct, it incorporates um, your body, but it's beyond all of that. It's like you're plugging into a channel of wisdom, truth, knowledge that, I call it like the third rail of spirit, where, when I go to train, fair enough. I have my manual. In the morning, we're going to do these three things. We're going to have this much time for this activity, and then we're going to move to this. And there's a genius in the design of that manual, that the journey of that delivers over and over and over again after 20 years of being a senior trainer, hundreds of trainings, delivers this awe at the end of Sunday night when people have had the full experience. So you don't want to, just throw away the manual and say, well, let's see what happens. But at some level, the training isn't in the manual. Training is what reality is bringing you. It's that person at that time with the microphone in that seat with this group that has, this particular um, personality as a group with this particular team and this particular training, you know, with, whatever reality is giving you in that whole mix of elements is unique to that moment. And so being present in that moment, presence is something you hear a lot about in New Age trainings and Eckhart Tolle and all of those masters. When I am free of the static of my old mindsets, I'm delivered to the third rail of inner knowing. And now I'm tuned into a channel that is beyond my thinking. where I'm beholding what's coming, I'm hearing, I'm sensing, I'm intuiting. And when I follow that, what happens in the manual happens. And it happens when it happens. And maybe this thing took a little longer here, but it went a little shorter here. And I don't even have to manage it, even though I'm responsible to deliver it, the entire program in the time given. When I am truly present to what is happening in the training, that timing happens almost on its own. And I don't presume to know that this particular interaction that seems to be taking a long time, and I have to, it's running too late and I need to stop it and we need to go on to the next thing. Sometimes I need to do that. But sometimes I go, there's something here and I don't know what it is. I haven't looked behind the curtain and said, this is really going to take us somewhere. But sometimes I just get the sense, follow this, follow this, follow this. What needs to happen, what needs to be seen, what needs to be known, what needs to be claimed, it's right here. Just keep going. Follow it, follow it, follow it. So I'm following life's lead as opposed to I'm leading the training. And in that moment, the most powerful things, the most powerful interactions happen that literally make the imprint on those who witness it more importantly than what were the steps of this process. That was where the earth shaked and the air sparkled and everybody went, oh, what happened just now? you know that's where the miracle, the sacred process reveals itself. It comes down to us from wherever it comes from source. And so if I'm not following that, fair enough, I can have a training that's effective and it delivers all the deliverables and but it's not remarkable. Whereas when I have those moments where I follow and I put the manual aside, I'm not even looking at it, I follow what's happening in the room, and it takes me on a journey that marks me for life and marks everyone in the room for life. I'm willing to surrender my agenda to the agenda. And when I live my life that way, because it's not just in the training room as a trainer, it's like I am willing to surrender my agenda to the agenda, you know, that life, right now, my car got a flat tire. Okay, so we can't get to that destination. Okay, now how will I be with this flat tire? Where are we? What's around me? Oh, look at this amazing site we've been delivered to that we would have driven right past. It's like, again, letting now the navigation of life, turning it over to the wind, the water, all of it, and saying, I'm willing to stop, open the door for my kitty. And there she is, asleep in peace. And instead of being stressed out behind a door, meowing for attention or meowing for me to let her in, what was lost? It wasn't an interruption, it was what was offered. And now there she is. And I love her. I want her to have her chair in her life, and she just can be, and I can just feel her and touch her and feel the essence of life coming through our connection. And so what else have I got to do? What's more important? What needs my attention more than that?
Mm.
You know? And so presence is the subject that you're really touching on, about letting go of, I may have my plan, but I'm willing to let the plan evolve according to life's plan. And when I do that, I live a more masterful life and I'm delivered to literally miracles, as opposed to, well, that was okay. I don't live at okay, I live at miracles.
Mhm.
And so can you.
Mhm.
But you need to deliver yourself from the static of
Right.
that old channel so that you can have eyes, heart, mind, hearing, seeing, and following, and trusting and faith, and see where it goes.
There was one gentleman at that weekend in Huntsville who told me about his first encounter with Brad Brown and this work that you're describing. And he was an engineer, I think a nuclear engineer at
Cool.
Oak Ridge.
Mhm.
Um, and he, Brad came in and had a seminar actually at Oak Ridge Labs for the engineers.
Mhm.
And it was a bunch of, this was the mid 80s, a bunch of nuclear engineers sitting around a conference table. And he expressed, he told me about the incredible surprise after about 10 minutes, he was weeping. And he had never had a release like that, never knew he had feelings like that. And it was particularly odd for him suddenly realizing that he was weeping with a bunch of his colleagues at Oak Ridge National Labs. And
Now that we've scared all the engineers away.
right.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, so it makes me wonder, there's so much work creating this context within a training room for a very particular shared experience. Have you Where do you bring the same type of work, these same types of processes where that aren't as managed, that aren't as um, part of that structure? And the reason I'm asking is my primary purpose of this summit and the work we're doing is so that eventually, as you talk about it, someday society, civilization, culture can be much more connected, much more heartfelt, create many more possibility spaces instead of being this automatic, rigid, formulaic machine. Um, my belief is for that to happen, they're gonna we're gonna want more people who are really masterful in the way you are of facilitating, training, guiding shared experiences in many different contexts. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that comes to mind where you essentially stepped into that trainer, facilitator, mentor, guide role in a very different context to bring people into that humanity, authenticity, connection that you described.
Mhm. Sure. Well, first of all, I wanna give a disclaimer in here that, I'm not always so masterful. That sometimes I'm rude, arrogant, impatient on the phone, especially with telemarketers or things like that that are interrupting my dinner or whatever. And I'm not so masterful. I'm not present. I'm not forgiving. I'm judgmental. And sometimes in our political discourse, I've been quite angry the past years, a couple past years now. But so in my humanity, I just want to say that sometimes I fall into not being my best. I don't have it all together. But after 3 decades of working this material, I don't spend a lot of time in my own self-made hell. I realize I'm in there. I fell, I get up, I come out, I forgive myself. I get it one more time and I make the course correction. And I may even call somebody back to apologize. So I just didn't want to create this image of somehow I'm saintly or I'm such a
Yeah,
master
and
of it.
that was really important. And at the same time, recognizing that's important, but it's also like being a first responder. Sometimes you're the guy climbing up the ladder, but sometimes it's your house that's on fire. You know, sometimes you're the person who's in the car accident, sometimes you're the guy in the ambulance. So it's not, I'm not, I don't think there's an expectation that you would always be like that,
Sure.
but having the skills to be able to intervene, support, guide
I
is
understand.
something that many, many, many people in the world don't have. They're if they showed up at a trauma site, they wouldn't know what to do. You know what to do. So I'm really interested in if there were those experiences where you kind of
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna speak to that. Um, I'm just gonna say one more sentence about the
yeah,
previous
yeah.
commentary. Even in a training where I know the manual, I know the material, I'm well qualified, I'm attempting to be present, I still can mess. Something can leak out, or some judgmental behavior on my part happens. And if I'm not awake to catch it, that's where a team member might. And one of the most powerful moments in the training is when I own it, that I did that. And I ask for forgiveness, and I offer forgiveness to myself. I show my vulnerability as part of the modeling of mastery.
Mm,
Not having it together, having it all together all the time is not mastery.
mhm.
That's ego. Having the willingness to miss and course correct and miss and course correct, that's mastery. So then I'll put that aside for a moment
That's
now.
great. Thanks.
So when you're in a training and people have paid money to come to the training, they, in a sense, have given you some permission. You know, they've given you permission to work with them at some level. If they want to leave, they leave. But at some point, I have been given permission. And if I'm onto an interaction that's really, really traumatic for somebody, I may even ask for permission again, because we're going into something that is the most painful experience of their life or something. Or if I'm going to come after them hard, I'm going to confront something, I may ask for permission. When I'm out in the world, I'm in a supermarket and a mother's scolding her child and she's shaking them or something. And I haven't been given permission to go over and tell that mom a thing or two about child rearing. And even closer to home, if my son and his wife and my two grandchildren are doing something that I think is out or off or not accurate or not helpful or even harmful, I need to be mindful of that. I haven't been given a carte blanche ticket to come in and intervene. Now, if somebody's their child or something, I might intervene. I might, there are times when you're not going to ask permission. But even something simple like yesterday, I was at a store and we were buying ceramic pots for our plants, and the person at the register was all flustered, and they were trying, and I was saying, well, I'm a member, and she was trying to look up my membership information. She had the wrong screen, and she kept doing the F11s and whatever on the keyboard, and she kept getting more and more flustered. And I just said, just take your time. It's all right. I'm not in a hurry. In that moment of seeing another human being struggling, as opposed to, boy, she's incompetent. How come she's not? I don't need to get out of the store. I got another meeting here, and boy, get somebody good in here, or add more pressure, make it tighter for that person. Give them a moment to breathe and to feel and to reconnect and reground. The person turned to me and said, "Thank you for that." Now that's a little moment, a little act, but that is it. That's that's an example of you bring this into life by how you're being. And I may say to my son and his wife, I might say, I have a different take on what just happened. Would you be willing to hear it? And they say, sure, or maybe my son and I take it offline, and he asks me questions and he seeks my counsel, as opposed to I sit there and make a face like, you guys are doing it wrong. That I used to do that. I used to do it with my grandkids. And I noticed they just didn't come up to me quite as easily anymore. They used to just run into my arms, but then after I gave them a couple of those little stern looks and all that kind of stuff, they just were a little back. Like, I'm not sure about Grandpa. He's not liking what we're doing, or he's mean, or he's something. And until I got down on my knees and said, be with them where they are. Now they run to me. Now they nestle into me. Now, what was that? It still doesn't mean I'm not going to give them feedback, or I'm not going to give them some input about what they're doing. But it's given in that spirit of love, not in the spirit of making somebody wrong, or saying I know better, or being superior, or assuming power over other people that I don't have. I haven't been given power over other people. I haven't. Training is different. Or you hired me to coach you. Well, fair enough. You said, okay, give it to me. Uh, The world hasn't said, give it to me. So, modeling leadership, modeling generosity, modeling, but even beyond modeling, it's not like I'm putting on an act. I'm being that person. I'm, you know, I see somebody begging on the street, and they say, I need money, or I need food, or I need something, and I'm a veteran, or I'm a this, or I'm a that, or they got their dog or their kid with them, or whatever. And, you really see it when I was in South Africa. I mean, they're on every street corner, people that are really in need. And I used to think, okay, well, I don't know if they're going to take the money and buy alcohol, or they're going to take the money and buy drugs, or, so I better not give them any money. You know, I don't know their life. I don't know their history. And I don't know if that bottle is their only solace where they get a moment of peace. What's, you know, what's the skin off my back if I give them a couple of bucks and say, or even if I'm willing to take the time, take them over and get them a lunch somewhere. Why wouldn't I do that? I have enough money. It's not going to take away from anything from me. It's a moment of love. And I don't have control over what they do with that. Will I love them anyway, even if they're hurtful to themselves? I don't know, but I'm not going to not love because that might go a certain way. I'm going to act favoring that part of the scale of my generosity, kindness, love, period. And, I used to say, we have some books that Brad wrote in the trainings, in the Mortal Life trainings. And, people buy the books and they have sayings that Brad was very, very clever at putting illustrations of all that I've been talking about into, little sayings that remind you of what you're about, or what you're going for in this evolution process. And, I often use a story. I get a couple of those books, and on my flight home, you know, let's see, let's get the connection back here. I think it's back. Okay.
Yeah, no, it seemed good.
Okay. Um, and I say, you can buy these books and just give them to people. People at the toll booth, they pay for the person behind them, pay it forward, and
Hmm.
the next person drives up and they, oh, that guy paid for me. Oh, that's like a little moment, an act of kindness kind of a thing. Well, I say, well, you might take these books, and on your flight home, you might give them to a stewardess who waited on you, you know, and, you know, you might say, here's a book because your service was absolutely stellar. Inside, you're saying this, and you give
Hmm.
them a book. You might also give them a book. The service was absolutely horrible. You know, it was absolutely horrible. But you don't tell them that. You just say, here's a book. You know what I mean? It's given not as a reward, it's given as an awakening gift out of the spirit of generosity. It's not attached to they have to behave a certain way or believe a certain thing or anything for me to be loving, me to be forgiving, me to be empathetic. And I might even say something to the person who didn't give good service and say, you know, I understand, you're managing quite a few things, you know, I hope you know that we do appreciate you caring for us. And so that she takes that or he takes that into the next flight. That's how the world changes. Not because, hey, your service was really shitty. You know, I don't know what's happening in their life. Maybe their mother just died, or they just lost a pet, or they have a sickness, or they're being put on, they're being fired, or who knows what's happening. I don't know about that person in the car that just cut me off. What their life is about. But I know enough about humanity and enough about life to at least have my heart open to say, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt. I've been angry. I've been impatient. I've been in a hurry. I've rushed. I've made an unsafe move out of my sleepiness and driving. I've cut somebody off. Okay, good enough. We're thankful we didn't get hurt. There was no accident. Thank you, life. That's a different experience than I'm going to get that fucker, on the next stoplight. So you have a choice. The reality is the same. How will I
Yeah.
be?
Yeah.
So
No, I really see that. It's a difference I really wasn't aware of before in terms of where that boundary is of permission. And when somebody comes to you, whether it's in a training or as a coach, saying, um, I have challenges, I'm ready, something's got to change, then there are probably going to be times in which they're going to be there there might be some additional discomfort, where sort of like, as a doctor preparing somebody for a shot or, how you're going to work with that. Um, but in outside of that context, it's really just a matter of applying all that training where you're simply being generous, being courageous, being forgiving, being loving, being authentic. And that's essentially just the way of applying the medicine. Um, and
there's
and
more.
not
There's
okay,
more that side. Thank you for
okay,
capturing that side of it.
okay,
That's me being loving
right.
as a default position, forgiving, empathetic, understanding, all of that. But there's also the courage it takes to confront. Now, I do that at times. It's not my first tool. It's not I go to that tool bag immediately. If I need to get a nail in, I'll take a smaller hammer at first, but I don't bring out the sledgehammer. But at some point, it may need a sledgehammer. It may need to turn up the juice because the person is not awake enough to receive the message. And there may be times in outside of trainings where it's time to confront something, where an intervention, where I don't have permission,
Hmm.
but I take a stand on something that is that important.
Can you give an example of that? I mean, it just sounds to me like there's something that might have come to mind.
Okay. A simple one. I'm going to give you two examples, actually.
Okay.
A place where I didn't and a place where I did. Okay. So when I was in fifth grade and I lived on Long Island, And I was with a group of boys on the beach, and we had a little beach around where we lived. We lived in a little island on the south shore of Long Island, and there were these horseshoe crabs. They almost look like war helmets, and they have big pointy tails. They look quite ominous, you know, and they kind of move along like a helmet moving along the ground. And I was with a group of these boys, and they decided to torture these creatures.
Mm.
So they turn them over on their back, and all the legs are going, and they're stabbing them with sticks. And I'm just like, I'm just devastated, just disgusted and wrought with pain. And what I did, I ran home. I didn't intervene. I didn't say anything. I didn't say stop. I didn't take the sticks away from the boys. I didn't put the horseshoe crabs back in the water. I didn't do anything. I ran. I was afraid. I was afraid I'd be rejected by the group or my peers or something, or was just so horrified and I didn't know what to do with the horror. I could have turned away from it, turn away, don't look, go away. Yet the horror is still happening. Now, those things happen in the world on lots of different levels, you know, and will I turn away or will I say something? And so, an example where I did say something that isn't quite as dramatic, you know, I'm with guys that I play racquetball with when I was living in California. And it's all guys, you know, pretty much. We have one or two women that play with us, but it was all guys at the time. And there's what they call this locker room talk, you know, like what Trump said he was doing when he was talking about women. You know, it's locker room talk. And there may be jokes made or comments made about women, gays, lesbians, whatever. And there was a couple of jokes being made. And there was kind of a buy-in or a take-up by the group about it because they were laughing. They were going along with it. And I stopped and I said, that's not okay with me. It's not you need to stop. It's that's not okay with me. I keep the power over here. I let them know I'm not laughing at that. That isn't helpful or you know, it isn't ethical, it isn't moral, it isn't something. It's not okay with me. So my voice is being heard in that. And that's me taking a stand, even though, in a sense, there was no permission or no, that's me coming in. Now, when I did that, the place kind of has a moment of very big discomfort. You know, whether it's guilt or whether who the hell does he think he is or whatever it is, but it registers. And I believe from the looks on the people and reading the body language that a number of the participants that were kind of laughing sobered up and they were enabling behavior that they didn't believe in also, just to be part of the group. So that changes the dynamic. It puts a sensitivity on it. It doesn't make it like, well, this is okay, this is the way we talk around here. And so that's a way that I take that courageous stand and not turn away like I did with the horseshoe crabs and bring my full power in.
Mm.
So those are just
Yeah,
some
no, those are great examples. So we're about at the end of this session. Um, is there for other life coaches, business coaches, trainers, mentors out there who might be watching this, is there one skill, tool, technique that you could offer that somebody might want to test out, practice, see how it works, that might give them a little bit more of a capability or capacity to support somebody?
Well, what I've heard from a lot of my clients, worldwide clients, is they've had other coaches and they've had other therapists and counselors and consultants and all kinds of things like that. And people aren't behaving the way they're behaving because there's some even intellectual decision they've made. A lot of things are unconscious. As I said, they went into a kind of a memory bank behavior. There's a lot of agreement about what leadership looks like, what business success looks like, a lot of cultural messaging that people try to aspire to. You know, the whole thing now with social media and being liked and being approved of. And I mean, it's gone ballistic. And yet it isn't delivering the prize, the well-being, the fulfillment, and so it isn't just the goal if we want to change the mindset of coaching and consulting. Yes, the result is the way, it's the process, it's the goal that you're trying to achieve is just the practice field.
Hmm.
And so if you want people to really evolve, you need to get underneath. It's not just executing plans, or it's how are we being while we're executing plans.
Mm.
You know, I can be a very, very good business person and be on my second divorce. My kids don't talk to me. Um, you know, I'm never quite satisfied. I'm always having to do more or get more. I'm overwhelmed. I'm wondering why nobody's helping, that I have to do it all. I mean, if you can hear that kind of a messaging, it isn't about just work harder or try more or get over it, or you tell somebody, just get over it, you know, let it go. Well, how do you let it go? You know, when somebody's wounded you, how do you let it go? You know, it's not just, and I think there may be a mindset in a lot of coaching that the goal is the thing.
Got it. Yeah, I can see that.
And the goal is still important. I mean, if your company's in a hole or something and you need to get it profitable or manageable or sustainable, that's important. But if it's all about the goal and literally you're losing your staff along the way and everybody's burned out and stressed out and hates each other, what have you really accomplished? You know, fair enough. You may be able to pay them off with a bonus at some point if they're still around, but it's not a sustainable model of fulfillment of a fulfilling life. And so there's purpose underneath. What is it we're after and why are we after that? Now, how are we behaving in a way that expands our efficiency, our connection, our teamwork, our partnership, our leadership, our impact on the world, our ethics in terms of the products we make and maybe the byproducts that aren't healthy for the environment, or you know, how are we being with the whole picture? Because if we're also not citizens of the world, if we're just, you know, CEOs, and or we're just board members and we have to, you know, make sure our stock is, that's the purpose, is keep the stock high. If that's the model, I don't think it'll deliver. You know, it won't deliver something that transforms our world into a place that thrives and is fulfilling and gives a people a sense of their worth and invites people to bring creativity to the max forward. It's, what are we serving is a good question. You know, when you're working with folks, what are we serving? What are we after? And so if you can just add that to your tool bag and
Hmm.
look beneath the surface to say, okay, what is this about? And, you know, and not just bow down to the goal or the goal of society or the goal of the stockholders or the goal of the somebodies, and then just mindlessly plow forward at full speed ahead when everything's burning around you.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay, that's a value.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Warren, thank you so much for your time and your generosity of spirit. I really
Mm.
think you've brought something very important to the folks who are here with us today. And I hope everybody will join Warren on Scoby Social on our app, get to know him. And I think you'll gain a lot from that.
And I want to thank you, David, because it's a big vision that you've had to bring this forum forward into the world, and you give opportunities for people of wisdom and knowledge to share their best, and all of us learn together in the shared experience, so that I grow. It isn't just me teaching others, it's me growing. I'm also hearing my own words and learning from them as they come. And so I just want to acknowledge you, David. It's not an easy thing to bring a big vision forward in the world, and you're doing it. And I'm honored to be on the journey with you. And let's see what life brings. I'm excited.
Beautiful.
All right.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.